Hi, I'm Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. Today we're going to continue our series on Amethyst Dreams with the Born to Sparkle set. Let's get going. Okay, as I said, this is a continuation of the Amethyst Dreams set from Hunkydory Crafts, and today's set we're going to look at Born to Sparkle topper set. Born to Sparkle is a fashion-oriented set. We've got this glamorous dress, we've got beautiful super high heel shoes, we've got leave a little sparkle wherever you go, another little topper of the dress, we've got this pretty mask, like a masquerade ball mask, Born to Sparkle, Simply Gorgeous, Happy Birthday, and a couple of borders. Here's our matching cardstock. Dress on one side, chandelier on the other. And finally we've got our silver foiled cardstock sheet. Now this one is cut down a little bit already because I was preparing this for the video today. It would just be a continuation of this pattern out here. But those are our three cardstocks. In addition, we're going to use some acetate from the Amethyst Dreams acetate set. The piece I'm using here is a purple foiled kind of chicken wire sort of pattern. I have just a little piece of cardstock here. I have a piece of my purple mirror board. This is from Nouveau. These are those cardstocks that are the less expensive mirror board that I mentioned to you before. We also have this from Hunkydory if you prefer Hunkydory brand. I found both brands to be comparable and this is less expensive, so whatever you prefer to do is cool with me. This is a card that I made myself for my gatefold card. I was out of 5x5 gatefolds and that's the size I wanted, so I simply cut a 5x10 inch piece of adorable scoreable cardstock and then scored it at 2.5 inches on each side. So it's really, really easy to make a gatefold card. We also have, this is from the Sparkle and Shine set of adorable scoreable, and I cut a sheet in half. Now you may not be able to tell on camera, but the Sparkle and Shine set, much to my dismay, does not actually sparkle and shine. It's printed to represent a glittery finish, but it doesn't actually have a glittery finish. It's still really pretty, and I would have been absolutely happy with it had I not expected it to be different. So be happy when you order it, knowing that you get a beautiful variety of colors in these pretty prints, but this does not actually sparkle, nor does the satiny finish one shine. It's just printed to look like it does. And here are my insert sheets. As I indicated, in an insert pack you get 16 different sheets of inserts. All 16 are different, so you may choose to use different ones with your cards. That's fine. I'm going to use my silver jewel dazzles. Additionally, my other tools, I'll have my paper trimmer, my long blade scissors, I'll have my super fine point quilling tweezers. That's worth the investment. If you don't have a pair of those, think about getting those. They're only a little over $3 and they're wonderful. For adhesives, I'm going to use my foam squares. As always, my Hunkydory finger lift tape. We have our best glue ever for attaching our bows, just in case it's needed. I have my little needle nose glue bottle with my cosmic shimmer glue. I have my bows and my bow maker. So let's get going here. Our first card today could really start anywhere we wanted to, but since I picked this one up, let's start with this one.
Should we put our best glue on our bows so they can dry while they're
I actually already did that with this one.
Oh.
This one is already drying. I don't know if you can see my little glue dots there, but I already did that with this one. And the other bow I'm going to tie on camera. So I only have 2 bows today. But yes, we have one of them ready to go. Okay, we're going to make this card. I love the way this looks when it stands up. I think it's really pretty. It's very dimensional. It's functional. You have lots of writing room in the inside, and it's super easy to do. Let me show you what I did here. I took one whole sheet of Adorable Scoreable, and let me get some measures for you. I cut this, first of all, to 10 inches long. Then I scored it at 4 and at 7 so that I will actually have it folding not quite over the top, because I wanted that pretty edge to show. So again, I'm cutting it to 10 inches, 2 score lines at 4 and at 7, and then I'm just going to fan fold it with the mountain on the top and the valley underneath. That's all you had to do to prep your card. How's that for easy? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build this topper. So let's punch that out of our topper sheet here and get that going. Now, I want to show you what I did here. I actually built this up on a piece of cardstock. And the reason that I did that is because I made this in such a way that this is hanging over the edge, and I didn't want a lot of loose components hanging over the side here. I like them to be sturdy because my cards especially get handled a lot. So I built that up on a piece of cardstock first. So I had this piece of cardstock in my file materials here. I want to punch out this big dress with a pretty frame. And as I so often do, I'm going to build this dress, and I want it to be dimensional. You see how I've got my outer frame up on squares, I've got my in-between frame with the little line in it glued flush to my card, and I've got my middle topper up on squares. So I'm going to do that real quick here. I'll get started with that, then I'll probably go off camera for a minute while I finish this, because you don't need to watch all of this. But I will punch out my 3 pieces. I'm going to get my foam squares, and I'm going to start putting a few foam squares around the edges. Now, once again, about 1 per inch is sufficient to get the job done. Lift it up nicely, provide plenty of support, and not waste squares. If you put many more than that, you kind of are wasting them because you don't really need it to hold them up. This is a good job for these squares. This would also be a good job for foam tape, the narrower foam tape like the 2mm shaker tape. This would be a great job for the 2mm tape. I don't like to use the 3 for this simply because I want to save the 3 for my shaker cards. And I'm going to put some foam squares on here. Let me go off camera for just a minute here while I put down these foam squares and peel all of the little tabs off the back. I'll be right back. Okay, got all my foam squares on there, so I'm just going to go ahead and position my frame on the cardstock here. I'm going to let the edges of the cardstock do a little bit of my work here, so I only have to cut 2 sides. Now I'm going to add a little bit of my glue. The thing I love about these needle tip glue bottles is, one, they work really, really well. Look at the fine line I'm getting there, even holding it up in the air so you can see it on camera. I'm getting this wonderfully fine little line. See that? That's great. So now I'm going to just flip it over, and I'm going to put this right inside of this frame that I just laid down. Now, if you get any glue on your mirror finish on the on the pretty foiled edges, just take a baby wipe and wipe it off. Usually I manage to do that. Today mine looks nice and clean, but just fit that right inside the square we just put down. Now I'm going to put in my topper that we've just put foam squares on. I'll put it right in the middle. And take my long edge scissors and I'm just going to cut this out real quickly. I love long edge scissors for paper crafting. You hear me say this a lot, but I'd much rather have long edge scissors when it comes to cutting down along these edges and things, because the more times you have to open your scissors, the more opportunities you have to get off. And if you have a nice long blade, you don't have to open that blade very often. So we've got our nice topper all made on some cardstock. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some adhesive on here. And what I do with my easy tear tape. I'll put some adhesive on here. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our acetate on our card base. We want this first because we want to be able to cut this edge. Now, what you're going to shoot for here is we know that our topper is going to be about one little rickrack row set in from the edge of our card. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our tape down. What I want you to be careful of is to make sure that you're keeping your tape below the top line and above the bottom line and inside of this border. Basically what we're doing is we're hiding our tape lines behind this topper. So I'm going to go ahead and put down, I'm going to actually put 3 rows of tape in here. I want to keep those up from the bottom, down from the top. I can go clear out to the side because all of this is covered. I'll go ahead and take my, just rubbing my tape down since I was kind of doing it in the air. Go ahead and take my liner off, my tape. We're going to fit this on here. I want that acetate to come clear to the top, clear to the bottom. Now I've cut this piece just for what it's worth department. I've cut this piece to about, I made them 3.5 inches, but I'm still going to cut off probably close to 1/2 inch. And that kind of makes sense because we folded this panel to 3 and this panel to 3. Better safe than sorry though, so I allowed myself a little room to cut some off as opposed to having to fit it exactly. Now I'm just going to run along this side and I'm going to trim down that acetate. You probably could, if you're more accurate than I am sometimes, I'm sure, you probably could cut this acetate to 3 inches wide, knowing that you made that topper that way. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel my tape. Now it looks to me like I got my tape over just a little bit further than I wanted it on this side, and I don't really want that to show, so I'm gonna take that tape back off of there if I can. If I can't take it off of there without tearing things up too bad, and it's coming off okay. If I couldn't get it off of there without tearing it up too bad, then I would just take my embossing pillow and I would deactivate the tape by putting some powder on it. Okay, so I'm going to set this row of tape in just a little bit further than I did last time, because I don't want my tape to be showing from this back side. That's why I moved that. Okay, that'll be better. And now I want to put my topper on here so that I have fairly equal distance to the top and to the bottom, and one row in. This one row in from the side. This topper's wide enough. I think you actually want a little bit of this side showing too. So by placing it here with one zigzaggy line showing at the side, then I have a nice matching border on the other side. And that's actually it. I didn't put any bows on here. The only thing I might still want to do would be to add just a couple little jewel dazzles to that. I like to roll these off on my finger. There's no real correct way to do this, but I like to roll them off on my finger and then pick them up with my tweezers, or if it's easier for you, just pick them up off the sheet with your tweezers. I just like having them on my hand. And I'll put maybe 5, lost one. Probably wear it in my hair or on my clothes somewhere. 2 more here. I like to use odd numbers of things too. I think we've talked about that before. And all I'm doing is just adding just a little bit of extra shimmer to those spaces. I'm not even sure you'll see it on camera, but somebody holding the card will see it. And that one's done. First one done. Let's go on to number 2. Okay, let's start with a blank 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 card. This is an odd size. I know that some of my cards are. I get them in all different places. So I think a 5 by 5 would work. If not, go ahead and go up to a 6 by 6. But you can always cut a 5 1/2 by 5 1/2 too, because that's just going to be an 11-inch card that's cut down 5 1/2 or 5 1/4 inches wide and cut to 10 1/2, scored in the middle. So I'm going to cover that directly with my Sparkle and Shine paper. Now the Sparkle and Shine, I told you early in the video that it doesn't actually have a glitter finish to it, nor does the glitter ombre. Adorable Scorable, by the way, which is also new, and we've all been waiting for it to get here, and it doesn't have a glitter finish either. It's just printed to look like glitter, so know that. With that said, it is pretty and it is functional and it does have a nice design to it. Just don't be disappointed when you get it home because it doesn't actually have a glitter finish to it. Looks like my card is just a little bit off here. I'm going to go ahead and leave that where it is for right now till I can see if it just has a bad score line or if it's actually off. I think I'll just leave it. Okay, so we've got our card covered in our purple Sparkle and Shine paper. I'm going to take that topper this time. Where did my topper sheet go? There it is. Clear over here out of range. I'm going to take my topper out, as usual, pushing it from the back forward. And this time, I'm going to, I can do this either way I want. I can I could take the center out entirely. It too is cut in a 3-piece topper. On this card, I left the in-between part around it. I think maybe I'll do that again because it makes it a little bit bigger and more colorful. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this down with some easy tear tape. And this item I'm actually attaching directly to my card. My easy tear tape is deciding to stick to my fingers here instead of the card. Doesn't usually do that, but if it's going to happen, it'll happen on camera. Okay. Let's rub my tape down a little bit. Peel the paper backing up. And I'm going to position that to be pretty centered. Okay, now because this is two separate pieces, I'm actually going to use a little piece of tape here where the frames started to separate. And I'm going to leave my paper on it because it's on the back and nobody will ever see it. Because I want to put that up on some foam squares. And taking the paper off and making this part sticky is not conducive to having it behave nicely when it's standing up on foam squares. If it gets touched there, it'll stick to the bottom level, and that's not what I want. I want it to stand up on the foam squares. So I'm going to put a little tape on it to hold my two pieces of my frame together, and then I'm just going to leave that. Okay, I'll put some foam squares on here. We'll prop this up here. Pop the backs off of those. I'm going to use some purple organza and tie ourselves a bow. And I thought, well, as long as I need to tie one, let me tie it on camera and remind you how we do that. If you are already using a bow maker, it can serve as a reminder, or you can skip past this part coming up here. Okay. And we will roughly center that. So you're putting that as a square on top of the diamond we created earlier. I only have one more thing to do here besides my bow. That is to put this little Simply Gorgeous up on a couple of foam squares. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, there's two things besides tying the bow. I want to put a few sparkles on it too. Let's put this on first. We'll put this up in this corner, slightly overlapping our frame. I like the look when you kind of overlap your elements a little bit. And let's tie our bow. I've got some organza ribbon here. Okay, I'm using my pink bow maker here, but if you have the gold one, I'm going to tie this on a 5. On the gold one, that's the first of the medium teeth, so it's going to be what we called in class a 1. And I'm just going to come to 5, wrap around the back, keeping my ribbon flat, come across over the top again and go through 5 again, come back up through the 5, and let's do it one more time. I'm not going to spread the petals of this bow out very much because, as you can see on my card, I don't have an awful lot of room there, but I do like the intensity of the color I get with the organza by making 3 layers. Now I've come up back through the back here at number 5. I'm going to go down through the hole, and I'm going to come back up across the front. I'm going to come down between the 2 number 1s. Now I'm going to release that tie that I just had in the little holder there. I'm going to tie this in just an overhand, a single overhand knot. I'm going to pull it up off my bow maker. And I like the way that looks. That looks good. Just the size I wanted, just the color intensity I wanted. I'm going to trim the tail. And now I'm going to decide how much I want to spread this out. I'm going to spread it out just a little bit. Just a little. Make it just a little bit extra ruffly. Just a little. And then I'm going to bring my tails down to the bottom. And I'm going to trim those in a whale tail. Sometimes people call this a mermaid fin. I'm going to fold my ribbon in half with the fold on the bottom. And I'm going to trim upward at a slight angle. And you get that pretty clipped tail. I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to fold it in half with a fold at the bottom. I'm going to trim it at an upward angle. And I get the pretty tails. I'm going to go ahead and put some best glue ever on this. And then we're going to wait for that glue to dry entirely before I actually add it to my card. You'll remember that with the best glue ever, this is really awesome glue for bow making, as long as you do two things. One, don't use too much of it. You don't want a whole lot. We're not trying to, that was more than I wanted actually. We're not trying to saturate our ribbon. We're only trying to get some coverage. And this is better on this side, guys. I'm spreading that out a little bit because I really don't want a big thick coat of that there. And so we want to keep the coat light. And we want to wait until the white disappears entirely and it's entirely clear before we attach it. It will be then like a glue dot, but the glue dot will be embedded in the fibers of our ribbon. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to quickly line my card. As we've talked about before, this time the part that I want to use inside my card is on the wrong side. So I'm just going to put it into my card. I'm going to hold this firmly because I don't want it to slide around. I'm going to trim around it. To get my insert the right size. And then I'm going to attach my insert where I want it to go. I want it to go here. I'm just going to check my size again after I move it. That looks good. I'm going to add a piece of easy tear tape inside. I don't know why sometimes the easy tear tape tries to kind of pull away from the paper. Just join them back up again. Oops, I'm going to peel that. I'm going to take my topper just the direction that I want it to go. I'm going to set it against the front of my card and line it up. Make sure I got it right where I want it. And then I'm just going to close my card. And now my insert's going to be right where I want it on the inside. After I've done that, then I'll add one more piece of tape to this outside edge. And we have two cards finished. We'll come back and put the bow on that when the bow is dry. Let's go on to card number 3. Okay, this time we're going to make a 4x8 card. This is also known as a DL. We'll start by taking our 4x8 card blank. We're going to cover it with some purple mirror board. By now you know how we're doing that. I like to generally use 3 rows of tape. Everything gets attached nicely that way. Okay. And when I am attaching my mirror board to my card, I like to take my card and I like to slide my mirror board into it, which generally gives me a nice even edge and no white showing. So I'm going to cut this off. And we will have our covered card. Now I know that this card is going to be 4 inches wide, because that's how they make deals, is 4 by 8. So I'm going to save this little piece because I'm going to cut some greetings and things with my dies out of that. And I'm going to take my dress, and I'm just going to look at it on this card and say, do I need to trim any off the edge in order to get that basically centered? And what I'm seeing is, yes, I think I'm going to take about a little over 1/4 inch off the side in order to have the dress image fit on my card where I want it to be. So, just eyeballing it a little bit, I can see that that puts me, I'm going to take about maybe 3/8 off. Remember, you're butting up against the solid part of your paper cutter at the top, not the arm. I'm taking a little 3/8 inch strip off, and now I want to make my topper. I used a little tiny 1/8 inch border on this one, and that's pretty, but I think I'm going to go just a little bit wider. So I'm going to make this one, I could go to 1/4 inch borders. That might be just a little more than I want, so I'm going to go kind of in between here. I'm going to do 3 and maybe 5/8. And I think that's going to give me a border I like. Yeah, a little wider. There. Now, obviously, I can't fit the entire part on there and keep that pretty at the top. I wish I could, because it's really pretty. But I'm going to go ahead and take, let's see, if this cardstock starts out being 8 1/4 inches long, and I want to leave an extra 3/8. So I'm going to go to, once again, 7 and 5/8 as my starting point. And then we'll check it and we'll decide if we want to go any more. I think that's just where I'd like it to be. Now, I'm going to check and make sure which way my card's going today. If you watched my last video, I made one upside down. I will not do that twice in a row. I don't promise I'll never do it again. I probably will do it again at some point. But I'm not going to do it in front of you, 2 videos in a row. Now, we talked before about using tape flags when we want to center something. I think I'll do that this time. I'm going to use my tape flag to, before I do that, let's see about, yeah. Let's put this border on here before we actually put that on there, because then I won't be having to clip it away from my card. And it's really, 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 really close. I could either trim this just a fraction of an inch more so that my border will fit, or I could just put it on there and pretend it matches. I'm going to cut this down just a fraction, just a tiny fraction more. This time I think I'll take it off the bottom so that that border fits exactly. Let's see how we're doing now. Now that border fits really well there. And I'm going to put that border on there. Grab my easy tear. Have a piece of tape there. I'm going to add that right onto my card. Right onto my topper sheet. I like the way that looks. Now I'm going to put my tape flags on the back. In case you didn't see it in our last video, tape flags help us to limit the amount of sticky when we're trying to center something. You know that if we pull all this tape off of here, it's going to get really sticky, and then when we try and center it, if we get it anywhere but exactly where we want it, we're going to have a hard time pulling it up. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to create these little flags coming out the side of our card. And to excuse my nails, I was using some gilding polish and some wonderful new Hunkydory powdered watercolors last night. I've got my fingers all stained. Mostly came off my fingers, but I still have it on my fingertips and under my nails. So excuse my dirty looking nails. They're not really dirty, they're stained. Okay, now I'm going to try and take a look at where I want this to be on my card. I'm going to allow myself those 1/4 inch borders all the way around. I can move it around at will. And when I get it right where I want it, I'm going to press it down a little bit here. Then I'm going to hold it with my hand and I'm going to peel my tape flags out. And that allows me to be able to center without worrying about having that getting stuck down before I'm ready for it. I want leave a little sparkle wherever you go, topper, on this one. I'm going to put some foam squares under that. I had my bow for this one pre-tied. It's one I had left over from one of my classes, so I'm using that. And I've already put my best glue ever on that bow, and it's already dried. So we can grab that and put it on. There we go. I like oftentimes to kind of turn these a little bit, just to give them kind of character, and everything's not so straight on. So I'm going to turn that just a little bit. I'm going to grab my bow here. You can see it's sticky. And I'm going to position my bow slightly under that, overlap my element just a bit. I like the way that looks. Now, the only thing we have left to do to the outside is decorate it up just a little bit. I'm not going to make you watch me put all of these on. Let me describe where I'm putting them and then we'll take a look at them together. I'm going to roll these off on my finger because I can get a whole bunch of them on my finger at once and not have to pick them off the sheet. And I'm going to put some sparkles on my topper here. And then I'm going to put a few sparkles on my dress. I'm going to put sparkles on these little starbursts here because that will look pretty. We'll be right back. Okay, I've added my jewel dazzles. If you want to do this with rhinestones, you certainly could. I like to do it with the jewel dazzles because you get a lot of sparkle without adding any weight or bulk to your card, but you could use rhinestones if you wanted. I've added them up here, a few here. I added one at the bust line, one at the hip, one kind of below the left knee. And then just for fun, I added a couple to the centers of the flowers just because I like the way it looks. And we got lots of pretty sparkle going on there now. Let's line it quickly. This time lining will be easy because our image is on the correct side. So all we're going to do to line this card is we're going to put a tape line down. I'm going to position my insert where I want it to be. coming from the back here. Get it lined up the way I want it. Close my card folder. I'm going to trim around the edge. And we have a finished card. We're now on to number 4, the last one in this series. Okay, let's go ahead and start our last card. This time we're going to use our manufactured card. You remember I made this one using a 10-inch piece of Adorable Scoreable. Scored it at 2.5 and 2.5, so it will fold in the center. And we're going to, these are the pieces we have left over, and we're going to use all of those in this card. So let's get started here. First thing I want to do is to cover my card. Now, I want to put this chandelier where it's going to show the most. I actually have a little bit of extra Adorable Scoreable here, so I'm going to trim about 1/4 inch off this side so I can get that chandelier right to the edge of my card. I'm going to take just 1/4 inch or so off of that. So I get that a little bit closer. And I'm going to cover my card like I normally would. I'm just going to do it in 2 pieces. Put a strip here, strip here. I'm going to peel my tape. I'm going to try to very carefully match up this side, making sure that my chandelier is at the top. I'm going to put my thumb right here so I can push right up against the top of my card. And we got a really nice attachment there. I'm going to carefully, I'm going to be extra careful when I cut this line here because this is going to be, in order to continue my pattern, this line I have right here is going to be the other side of my flap. What I mean is, I want to continue the pattern, so I'm going to bring this one right out to this edge, and I'm going to attach it here, so that I get that continuing pattern. See what I mean? So I'm going to put my tape on. And again, the nice thing about a centerfold card is it looks like it's complicated, but it's really not. I won't tell if you won't. And this time I just have to kind of try to match that up as best I can. Right up against the top. Looks like I'm getting a pretty good line on the fold. Got it. Okay, trim this off. Look at our nicely covered card. That looks good. It doesn't quite match. Maybe my fold was a little off. I fold off? Well, I'll tell you, do I want to fix that? Maybe I'm not going to worry about it. Or what shall I do? I could try to... I should have checked my card before I started. I told you I manufactured a card. I don't like that.
The top row will cover it.
No, it won't. Let me peel this. It'll be okay. This is nice heavy-duty cardstock, so I'm going to peel this back. I'm going to create a little bit of an overlap with this one. Get my extra paper out of the way. I still had a border piece left somewhere. I have 2 border pieces left. I said I'd used everything. I hadn't. So, let's fix it. Okay, I'm going to make this overlap just a tad. Let's see how this looks. That actually looks quite a lot better. See there? I'm going to make that overlap just a little bit. And take that back down. I'm kind of glad some of these things happen when I'm making a video, because I want you to see how you can fix stuff. The temptation there was throw it away and grab a new kit and not let anybody see that I did that, because, you know, it doesn't feel particularly great if you mess up on camera. But I want you to see that there's nothing, almost nothing you can do that you can't fix in some way. And so that's what we're doing right here, right now. Just a little bit of damage control. Looky here. That's pretty darn good. Okay, that's pretty good now. And when I did that, I end up with just a tiny bit of white at the bottom. I'm going to trim that white off. This is not a difficult card, guys. Sometimes it's probably because I manufactured my card that I was off just a little bit, and I should have checked it, and I didn't. So there's my error, was in not checking it. Now, I had these 2 borders left over, so my question is, which one do I want to use? You recognize this one? This is actually the strip that goes between the 2 printed borders. If you've watched my videos, you've heard me say before, never throw those away until you're sure you won't want to use them, because for things like this, they're perfect. They're perfect for hiding stuff. Or I could use this one. Now this is the piece that's going to go on here, so let's take a look at what we think. This one? Or the narrower one? I'm kind of thinking the narrower one, don't you, Bryce? Because it matches the color a little better. You don't like the narrower one? You like the floral? Mm-hmm. Okay, Bryce likes the floral, therefore we'll use the floral. I defer to my cameraman. Okay. I'm going to put a little piece of tape on there. And I'm going to cover up this border on this side, this white part. I'm just putting a little border strip on this side. If when I get done I want to, I can always put the other border on the other side. We'll just see what it looks like when we're done. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Okay, it actually kind of looks cool because you've got an element on either side, so I can live with that. All right, next up, we are going to attach our topper. Now, a lot of times when I have a 2-piece topper, I have you build it up on cardstock and we put it all on one side. I thought, okay, we're back. Camera battery died, but we're back at it. So while we were off camera, I started decorating up and adding some of my jewel dazzles. I put one on every other one of the little diamonds at the top of the sheet. I guess every 2 or 3. It's kind of inconsistent, but it looks good, so that's all right. And we are going to, I'm going to add this little happy birthday down here in this corner. I'm just going to put it directly on my card. Next, we're going to attach our topper. Now, you see that my topper is actually in two pieces, so we're going to do something a little bit different this time, just for fun. This time, we're going to attach the ring on one side and the topper on the other. Now, I've been playing with this too while we're off camera, and I can see that this ring, the jewels kind of match up, and there's my halfway point. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to put tape around on this half of my ring. So let's do that. Starting here, I'm just going to tear some little pieces of tape, go around that corner, and I'm going to stop when I get to the jewel on the opposite side. So it looks like it starts here, means I need to end here. So I got room for one more piece of tape here. Okay, so I got tape on half of my ring. I'm going to carefully position my tape, or my ring, so that it covers just half of that flap there. And I'm going to put my topper on the other side and create a fancy closure for this card. Now I have to keep track of where my tape starts and ends. This is where my adhesive is. I'm going to come down just a little bit more so I'm closer to center. So I know that that's going to be attaching just to one side without getting tape on both sides. Now I'm going to put my topper, my shoes, on the other side. And to do that and make sure that they don't get adhesive anywhere I don't want it, I'm going to put my tape inside the ring on that side. I'm going to add a fair amount of it and take those tape and paper off those two. And I'm going to add one more little piece of tape closer to the edge. So I can get tape clear out to the edge of my shoes. And now I'm just going to position my shoes in that hole, and I know that they'll line up and be at halfway. So now, here's my closure.
Cool.
How pretty is that? Okay, one more thing I think we'll do here. I was going back and forth about whether I wanted to put this dress on the outside. After seeing it actually on there, I think I do want the dress on the outside. So I'm going to put my dress down here at the bottom. A little bit of tape on it. And I'm actually going to go slightly underneath my ring, so I'm going to lift that just a little bit. Get my dress underneath it. There we go. So my shoes feed through the ring, and there's my closure. To open it, I slide it out. Okay, now all I have left to do on the outside is add just a little bit more bling. So I'm going to put a few more little jewels on here. You may be wondering why I roll these off on my finger. I don't like poking at them with my tweezers. I flip them even worse than I do when I get them on my fingers when I do that. So that's why I like to roll them off on my finger, because I can control them better. And I'm just going to put, not that I control them well as it is, but just going to put some bling around the ring here. When those little things are sideways, you don't see them in your tweezers. So they hide from you. Now, because we're making more cards than Hunkydory anticipates, and because these particular toppers just have an image on one side with plain white paper, or these particular inserts, not toppers, but the inserts are printed on plain white paper. I'm not going to have enough inserts to put an insert on the inside of this card. I might if I were building the entire kit, because I might do something different with the other card, but I won't for our purposes today. So what I'm going to do instead is put this greeting on the inside of my card as kind of my focal point on the inside, and that's going to look good too. So we've got our I knew I had another sparkle somewhere. I saw it. A little sparkle down here on the dress. Okay, we've got our gatefold card with our fancy closure. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put Born to Sparkle right here in the center at the bottom, leaving me room to write on the top. I hope you're enjoying our videos. If you are enjoying them, I sure would appreciate it if you would give us a thumbs up on the video. And if you're enjoying them, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the comments section of the video, I will have a link to this card kit and to actually all of the Amethyst Dream card kits in our newsletter. So let's put our bow on our other card. Let's take a look at this now. This is, whoops, hello. You can see that where it was white before, it's clear now. That means it's dry. And because this glue dot is now embedded right into that fabric, once I put this bow on, it's not going anywhere, guys. That is why, for this purpose, this is the best glue ever. And look how beautiful that looks. Let's stand back and take a look at our creations. Okay, here's our 4 creations that we've just made together. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and down in the links below this video, you'll see a link to the Amethyst Dream sets within our store. You'll also see a link to our newsletter. Newsletter subscribers get notice of when we've published a new video, and in that newsletter I'm going to send you links to all of the products that I used. Those links will take you right to our store and to where those products can be found. Again, if you like us, please like us. See you next time.